Okay, we're live on the 5-Minute Bark here today, and we've got Jim Case back for round 2. We had him much earlier in the beginning of 5-Minute Bark, and we've grown quite a bit, and Jim has grown too. So here today, we always love the reunion of the talk of connection, and we just both got done doing a little recording prior to this, but we said, we're going to do a podcast on it as well. So we've got Jim Case here from the Higher Brain Living Center, and he's got a lot of great things cooking in his pot. I love, by the way, Jim, all the tasty food that you put on Facebook. I get to enjoy that. And,
One of my hobbies.
It is. It's a great hobby. But not only are you cooking food, but you're cooking up great things with connection with people. And I think you're going to be world renowned for that subject. So while you're still able to spend time on my little small podcast here, I'm going to take up your time. But Jim's also in the process of reading a book, and we're going to have him come back on for another episode. But we've got Jim Case here from the Higher Brain Living. And if you want to kind of reintroduce yourself to everybody, say hello.
Sure. Hi, Dennis. Good morning. And good morning, everyone. Glad to be here. I'm excited to kind of share a little bit about, this topic, a little bit about who I am. I have a business called Higher Brain Living, and I do some breakthrough coaching. My main focus overall is to help people break through in all areas of their life. And the Higher Brain Living process is an amazing process that helps to facilitate that. And also in the process of writing a great book called Fear is a Choice, and really helping to bring to light how fear has kind of infiltrated our experience and how to successfully navigate through that and learn some truth about what it is and why it shows up in the world, and how we can not engage it and not go there.
Right. Jim, in life, we're all trying to be successful entrepreneurs. We're all trying to connect. And we often find ourselves trying to create businesses and so on and so forth to provide ways to connect. Like in the end, I'm not speaking for everybody, but gentlemen want to make a lot of money so they can attract that beautiful woman that they're going to connect with for the rest of their life. And women dress beautifully to try to connect with that man that they want in their life. But really in the end, it's really just the connection that supersedes all of the money, supersedes all the beauty. It's the connection that people find that makes their relationships last forever. Whether it's in business or in pleasure or in personal, it's a connection that really keeps the momentum going. And I'd love to talk about that here today on our show, and no better than you, since I've spent 7 months with you learning how to reconnect with people. We've spent time in the trenches working on me and how to connect with people, and no better than you to help me explain this to my crowd. So let's talk about connection here today, and starting with the term I always heard, and it doesn't resonate until now, is I have a higher connection with this. I have a higher level of connection with this person. And it really means something else. Let's kind of talk about that.
A good place to start. Higher, it's interesting as we go along, as you look around, more and more, I guess the best way to describe it is that business is allowing for more of a spiritual connection in the idea that there's more to this than the nuts and bolts of, I need money, I need to do this activity to create money. I think people are not as satisfied with that model because it doesn't talk about who we are. It doesn't allow us to get into that complete aligned space with really sharing who we are and our experience with other people, because that's what creates success, is that we share ourselves, we share what we know, we connect with people on a deep level. And like you were saying at the intro, if it's in relationship, if it's an intimate relationship, those connections, it's so much deeper and so much richer than any experience we can have. And that can be true in business, and it can be true in every area of our life. That when we show up in an authentic way, in a really present way, when we connect with people, there's a depth to it that is uplifting, that is satisfying, and that serves both people in the experience, not just one or the other.
Right. So there's two components to a conversation, right? If you're going to approach somebody, there's first, we talk about it all the time, and it's showing up. And we're going to go into that. And then after that, there's creating the connection with that person, or a topic to bond with, right? That has to happen. Mm-hmm. So first, let's talk about showing up. How do we describe to people what showing up means? I know, because I've been taught pretty dearly from you how to show up and what it is. I mean, it's not just showing up to the event on time. It's actually bringing your human being energy to that presence of that conversation between you and I. And people, if you're watching this on video, you're going to notice in some cases when Jim and I are talking, you'll notice, watch his eyes and watch my eyes and how we're communicating and how we're connecting here. And you can see at times we're in deep connection, and then other times we're kind of meandering off. So you can notice this when you're in a conversation with somebody else, that you have found that connection. And once you're in it, it's great, because you'll really start feeling this energetic force go back and forth between you. And sometimes you want to jump out of it, and then you realize, well, maybe I shouldn't jump out of it, because this is really, really feeling good. And this is really, really helping this person. This is really, really, really what it's all about, period. The energetic. So let's talk about show up. And I love how you explain that.
Well, showing up ultimately it starts here. It starts with, who am I and how am I presenting? What am I presenting of who I am? A lot of times I think that what happens is that we end up doing things that aren't really aligned with who we are. And so it makes it really challenging to show up, because what ends up happening is we have this dynamic where when we're not aligned with who we are, so we become a thing. We become this salesperson. We become this, I am an entrepreneur. I am a businessman. I am a this, instead of I am Jim. And Jim is coming to the table with a whole lot of stuff that's really valuable and really powerful and really engaging. And I want to share that with you. I want to engage you in the experience of who I am, and I want to be engaged by the experience of who you are. Well, the only way you do that is this term showing up, is you got to take a little bit of time each day to really dial into, where are you? If you don't know where you are, how can you show up in a conversation? How can you show up at that mixer? How can you show up at that meeting if everything about you is dialed into everything that's external?
Right.
Showing up has to start with the internal process. You have to be really dialed into, who am I in this, and how do I want to show up? How do I want to engage the world, and what do I have to give in that showing up?
Awesome. Jim, I just heard something recently that's really interesting I want to share with you, and it's about our political arena that's going on. Obviously, we have chaos going on in the voting, but it's actually a lot of good that's going on at the same time. But
absolutely,
obviously, we've got two candidates that are very, very connected with their audience. Okay, and I'm not going to mention names because we don't have to, but we know who they are. And there's also the standard political parties that are not so connected, and they've been doing tests now where they're taking actually brain machines, I don't know what they're called, but they're putting on people in the audience who are watching these candidates, and they're finding out, even if you don't like them or you do like them, you're engaged in their speeches, in their things that they're showing and talking about, over 20% more than other situations. So if you love or hate something, it's really more about connecting with. These people have a great way to connect with people. Again, you're not going to like some of the things they do, but at the same time, they're able to connect with you and have this resonation with you. And that's really important to understand, that there's a different level of connection that goes on when you're engaging with your audience. What you just kind of talked about is you showing up as a imperfect person versus a perfect person.
Right.
Sometimes will resonate more, because people somehow, unfortunately, I just heard this at Tony Robbins' event, is you can go up in front of a room and you can say, yeah, how was your day? Oh, man, and people will resonate with that. But if you come in the room and go, hey, man, how's it going? Yeah, this was great. And now you're a lunatic. So, right? And this guy is wacko and he's lost his mind. But if you come in the room and just shaking your head, oh, man, what a day. Oh, and people resonate with that. Why? Somehow people connect on a lower level than a higher level. I'd love to hear your words on this.
Well, so interesting, because where I went in that demonstration that you just did was how interesting that you pick two extremes of the expression, and the true expression is somewhere in between.
Right.
In that the guy that's all, yeah, hey, wow, hoo, hoo, isn't being connected, isn't genuinely being with themselves.
Right.
They're being a show.
Yep.
Right. The other guy who's kind of doing the other piece maybe is equally right. Well, no, is actually not either connected, because they're so insular in their experience that they get engagement because people resonate with that feeling, but they don't necessarily resonate with the person. So when the feeling and the person are congruent, then there's a place for alignment. There's a place for engagement with the person, as opposed to with their feeling or experience. So the guy who's like, yeah, come, people may resonate with that because there is an energy. The activity has a lot of energy in it. So they're focused on the emotion of it, and they either have a positive or negative experience. Some people will be really jazzed by it, and other people will be really put off by it.
Right.
But their responses to the emotional affect that's happening. And the challenge with that is that you don't get a chance to connect or align with the person because their bamboozle is what's in front of them, right? The other guy is just as much the bamboozle, it's just as much the same thing. It's just a different tone.
Right.
So somewhere in the middle of that, depending on who you are, like, I can get really enthusiastic and I can get really going, but it never goes to that arc of hysterical, because that doesn't connect for me. I don't want people to feel hysterical.
Right.
I want people to feel joy. I want people to feel uplifted. That's a whole different experience. Now, and please don't misinterpret. I'm not saying because, for instance, you were mentioning the conference you went to. There are tools and techniques that are used to stimulate a response in people, and that's what those things are for.
Right.
Right. In the context of a seminar, those are specific tools that are used to engage a specific emotional response that causes people to go into a different state. Outside of that, when if you're at a business meeting, or you're going to a mix, or you're going to a marketing event, you're not going to walk in and just like lose your shit all over the place for people and hey, come talk to me, because everybody will be like, who's the nutbag in the corner?
Right.
So getting to that point of alignment is finding your zone, that when you see someone, you connect with someone. I mean, how many times have you been to events where you go to connect and you make eye contact and you engage and you're very warm, and what you get is a lead hand, or you get somebody who looks at you but they kind of it's kind of a push away.
Right.
A push away. That has nothing to do with your ability to connect. It's that your energy and their energy are not in the same place. So
right.
On to the next.
Yep. You move on. So,
yeah.
So moving toward back, not that I've took it off to a little different angle there. So connection. We were earlier talking about speaking to people on a higher level. Higher level meaning connecting eye to eye, just one soul talking to another soul, and how important that is, and the longevity of that going forward. So if you're in a business situation and you're trying to create a relationship with somebody, or you're trying to create clients at a business networking meeting, it is amazing the difference between creating one or maybe two great connections from that event versus trying to go around handing out a business card to everybody.
Right. I agree with that wholeheartedly. I think the shotgun approach, where you throw in 100 pellets and hope they land, it's a way you can do things. And I want to be clear that there is no wrong way.
Right.
There are lots of ways to do things, but in my experience, I think the key words that you used, and again, it's interesting that these words can even be brought into the potential of a business conversation, but you're connecting soul to soul. That's where the showing up happens. There is a beyond the human experience. There's a beyond the we're in a business box and now we have to be business.
Right.
If you can't show up in an authentic way, if you can't let your beingness show up, however that is. I read one of your posts recently that I thought was really powerful. You were talking about the evolution that you're going through with writing, and that everything isn't always written perfectly, and I'm working on it, and this is who I am.
Right.
I think that and you and I have talked about this a lot, that is such an important part of connection, because I'm not perfect. And if I show up and pretend that I'm trying to be perfect, that's one of the things I think that engages people the most with me in my business and in my practice, is that I'm perfectly willing to talk about where I fell on my face.
Right.
I'm perfectly willing to share, when I did something stupid or silly or harmful to myself that is of benefit, because those experiences are what help everyone to uplift, because people go, wow, I had something really similar to that. And that tends to be a point of bond and connection that starts a process evolving, where you recognize we're both really great human beings having this human experience.
Right. And I love how you said that. Exactly that. It's like, hey, we're two human beings having a human experience. Human experience does not mean sameness. It does not mean excellence. It's the pursuit of excellence, yes, but we never get there, because there's always the next level to excellence. And Jim was referring to this post that I put on Facebook, because I constantly have people trying to edit my content, and I write a lot of content, and a lot of it's off the cuff. I woke up in the morning, or I woke up in the middle of the night and I wrote it, and everybody's like, oh, just make sure I edit it before. And I have a number of people I can turn to get these things edited, and it becomes a burden. And the only way I want to try to resonate with people is when I get it out there and just put it out there as feelings, as something that's going to tell them something. And it really became to the point where if I show people, they're not looking at it as what I wrote, they're looking at it as, how can I edit this for Dennis? And it just kind of, to me, just gets off topic. It's like, I'm not showing this to you to have you check my grammar, and that's what you're looking for. You're looking for what I mean and what I'm talking about. I mean, we can talk right now. You can say, I've already made 1,500 mistakes just in this one podcast of ahs, buts, saying the wrong words and so on and so forth, but nobody's criticizing that, because it's real life experience. But when you put it on paper and you write it down, like I said, people are constantly in it. And I'm saying, you know what? I get more attention when my misspellings and my grammar than I do when I have somebody else edit it, because somehow the energy that I portray out there gets taken away in some sort of way. I mean, that post and many other posts get so many comments and so many ways that have touched people. Granted, there's errors in them. So, of course, I'm in the pursuit of trying to become better. Of course, I'm and of course, in some cases, I'm going to have things edited. But I was like, enough's enough. I want to resonate with people, not be a grammar class.
Yeah. I think it's very interesting. I see this trend a lot of late, and I think it's really valuable. But that is just the whole thing of showing up, and what we're learning about showing up is it's the things that make us human that people connect most with. Back in the day when you had to establish yourself as an authority, it was creating an image that was so fine-tuned in such a tiny little box that you couldn't sway, you couldn't have a human experience, where I think in some regard, we're not looking at that. People aren't looking for that anymore. They're like, enough with the
corporate look,
the robo look. You're dressed right. I laughed because, and this, in the center, I wear a t-shirt, and I'm very casual, because for me, that's who I am. And I want people to feel comfortable. And it's never, ever, ever been an issue, because what I bring to the table as a human being in connection, they could give a shit what I look like. They don't care what I'm wearing. Maybe they'd feel better if I had a dress shirt on and a tie, but I wouldn't.
Right. And therefore it takes away from your experience and your ability to show up, because you're going to somehow subliminally be thinking about, I need to be dressed up. Oh my God, this is so uncomfortable. I'm trying to, help this person, and I'm worried about my tie choking me,
Right. And I want to be presentable. So I'm not going to show up not showered and not shaved and looking like a mess. And, I want to present well, but I want to present approachable. I want to present available. I want to present that I'm a guy. I'm a guy who's got some experiences that I think are valuable, and I want to share that. And I want you to share yours. So I want you to feel comfortable that you can sit with me and just, and let it all hang out, and I find that that's incredibly powerful. And I think that as I look across social media and as I look across network stuff and TV stuff, more and more it's those people. You were talking politics earlier, and I have to laugh a little when you think of somebody like Bernie Sanders. who by appearance you'd be like, what a schlub, but the guy shows up in his genuine expression. And he just talks. He just does his thing, and people are engaged by that.
Right.
And I think that's true across the board.
Right.
When you're manufactured, I think if you think of like the Hillarys, the manufactured, processed.
The teleprompter. Yeah, I can't say anything wrong. Right.
Yep.
And yes, and going back to the whole dress and look and feel, and I know women experience this more than men, but it's like you could be trying to meet somebody in your first date or a first business meeting, and you're so worried. I mean, you got 100% of your brain, let's say 5, 10, maybe 20% of your brain power is being focused on, gee, do I look okay? When it could be then transferred into engagement with that person. Once you're engaged with a human being, you're connecting back and forth. Do you even care about their shoes, their hair, their anything? You never never even crosses your mind, No.
And that's not what you fall in love with. It's not what you align with, and you didn't go into business with somebody because they knew how to wear Van Heusen ties or Perry Ellis shirts or whatever.
Right.
You connected with a human being who happens to wear some nice clothing.
And you appreciate good clothing. Don't get me wrong. I always
amen. That's right.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Ain't nothing wrong with good clothing.
Right, there is. Yeah. Right. Well, this is a great podcast here today, and connection is what we're talking about, everybody. It's how you resonate and talk with people on a higher level when you're meeting them, and how important it is. And I wanted to also mention that, again, if you're going in a room and you're handing out hundreds of cards, sure, you may get leads, and it does happen. But if you create 2 or 3 great connections, those then turn into other leads, because long term, those people are going to share you in a different way. They'll be in social platforms. If you have to call upon these people, you've now created a connection, which now gives you an opportunity to share to their friends. And when we talked about this earlier, is if you get somebody, there's a difference between somebody taking a post of yours and say, hey, can you share this? And they just post it. Or the person that takes it and posts it and puts a paragraph about you and how amazing you were and just takes the time to resonate with the appreciation of you. There's a big difference there, a massive difference. I have people I ask to share all the time, and the people just post. It's like, oh man, nobody's going to read that, But if they're posting it with something, like I always try to take the time to post and comment on that person, because I've created a connection with them. But if you're, a business card hander outer type of person, they're just going to have that dry experience.
Yeah, and a lot of times, establishing those connections or making one aspect of showing up is that, and I don't want this to sound hokey, but I want it to get the point across, which is in that engagement, when you go up to meet someone or you're engaging with someone, the thought process of I am a human being who wants to connect with another human being. And it starts at that level of energy engagement. And from that, you get a sense of comfort, and that evolves into words. And once those words start to flow, then you start to pick and choose words that speak to that connection. And somewhere along the way, as you connect, you then bring in who am I from the expertise experience. Like, you talk about creating rock star status or creating that ability for people to respond to you. Part of that is that it's a building process. You don't show up as a rock star. You may get there at some point, but you want to show up in a way that first touches them and engages them and enrolls them in your experience. Then you get to talk about what you know. Then you get to talk about what you are a rock star at, because they want to know, they want to engage with you at that level. And now you've developed this foundational experience that can go in all kinds of different directions. And you don't have to manage it. You just showed up, and out of that, 2 weeks later down the road, that person goes, man, I had this amazing connection with this guy. I got to send him this person. I got to call him and say, oh, I've got this opportunity for you to be on a show. You want to do it? And then it evolves. And it's that stuff that Mike Dooley calls serendipity. It looks like it's magic. It looks like it's coming out of nowhere when it isn't. It's coming out of you showing up and connecting deeply, and then people responding to that. And that's what it's always about.
Jim Case, everybody, Higher Brain Living, amazing human being, friends forever here on the 5 Minute Bark. And God, we could talk for hours, Jim. We could talk for hours, but we
do.
And but I want to let my audience get back to whatever they got to do here today, and I'm sure you'll be on again and again and again. So Jim Case, everybody here today, higherbrainlivingmv.com. If you want to learn more about him and his practice, you can find him on Facebook under Jim Case. He's in My Friends if you are already friends with me. And don't be afraid to reach out to this guy. He's got so many talents. And again, he's coming out with a book that's coming out here in the months to come. It's just, I'm sure it's going to be an amazing hit as well. So he's not just writing it, he's taking the time to appreciate it and put every bit of heart and soul into it. So I'm pretty excited. So Jim, thanks again for your time.
Thanks for having me.
All right.
Appreciate it.
And listeners, we'll talk to you on the next episode. One critical thing highly successful people do is organize their goals and write them down. Success doesn't just happen to you, it's created by you. If you are ready to create a roadmap to greater success, you may want to listen to what I'm about to say. We have developed an online success platform that offers 6 critical tools for creating and implementing your success plan. If you're ready to turbocharge your personal development and success in every area of your life, it's time for you to join Team Cody Dog by visiting CodyDog.com. That's CODIEDOG.com.